Frequency stable. Engaging harmony wave.
Chimera 1, I'm in the distortion zone. Repeat, in the distortion zone.
The most terrifying disaster is not destruction, which is an end. It is replacement, which is an eternity. For weeks, reality had whispered its fears. Now, for the first time, it began to scream. What happens when the canvas of our universe, once thought to be singular and complete, suddenly realizes it is no longer alone? The first sign of the end was not a bang, but a subtle flaw in the mirror of reality, a reflection that no longer obeyed. Time, the great unyielding river that carries us all, began to stutter. The laws of nature, once written in stone, were now revealed to be merely suggestions. The first schism was not between worlds, but between a man and his own shadow. The palette of the world was broken, and the sky began to bleed colors it was never meant to show. The numbers that built our universe, the very constants of creation, were starting to rewrite themselves. The echo began to teach the ocean a new geometry, and the waves obeyed their new, terrifying master. The wound in the sky, once a hairline scratch, was beginning to open.
Look,
for the first time in history,
what is that?
The entire human race looked up and shared the exact same, unspoken, nameless fear. It was not an invasion of ships or soldiers. It was the universe itself, bleeding into our own.
Faster.
When logic fails,
We don't have much
humanity's
time.
answer is always the same. Build a better, stronger, more defiant logic of our own. The invasion began, not with fire, but with a transformation, a quiet and terrifying corruption of the world we knew. The laws of solid and liquid were no longer laws. They were merely negotiating their terms. The echo showed its terrible power by creating a beauty so profound it was an act of violation. Humanity's first response to a philosophical problem, attempt to solve it with brute force. A humbling lesson was learned that day. You cannot shoot an idea. We had offered violence to a concept that did not understand it, and now the concept chose to respond. It did not erase our world. It simply rewrote it, turning monuments of progress into sculptures of impossibility. When conventional weapons fail, a species must turn to its myths, and humanity had just built a new one. Plan B was born of desperation and genius. If you cannot fight the storm, you must learn to sing a song that calms it. The map of the world was being redrawn, not by men, but by an artist of incomprehensible scale. One by one, the fundamental rules of our world were not just being broken, they were being inverted. Newton's law of gravity, the bedrock of our physical world, was now merely a polite suggestion. And so, the first soldier in a war for reality itself prepared to fly.
Chimera 1, ready for launch.
A single arrow of logic fired into the heart of chaos. They did not fire missiles. They weaponized physics itself against an enemy made of impossibility. In an ocean of chaos, humanity created a single, defiant island of order. They were not just warriors, they were healers, suturing the wounds of a broken reality, one city block at a time. The most terrifying thing about chaos is not its power, but its ability to learn. This was not aerial combat. This was high-speed origami with the very fabric of space. Their enemy was not only in front of them, but behind them, inside the very flow of time itself. How do you rebuild a city when the very concepts of straight and level no longer exist? a ballet of destruction and protection, staged around the fragile spire of mankind's last hope. The fight was not of explosions and shrapnel, but of pure geometry and defiant light. To look upon the face of the abyss is to risk becoming part of it. A mechanical sacrifice, a final, silent reminder of the price for staring too long into the void. The great instrument of humanity, the lyre of reality, had just been strung. A single, unified effort, a symphony of survival conducted by the entire human race. The chaos sensed the coming of order, and in its final moments, it raged against the dying of its life. The final, desperate stand of logic against a tsunami of the irrational.
All power to the shield, at any cost.
A thin wall of human ingenuity against an avalanche of cosmic madness. In the heart of the machine, the moment of truth had finally arrived.
The pillars are fully charged, ready to fire!
It was the single most ambitious act in human history, not to close a door, but to attempt to tune an entire universe. The ambition of gods, wielded by the hands of mortals. In the end, they did not achieve victory. They achieved a ceasefire, written in mathematics and frequency. A truce had been called, a universal, sudden, and deafening peace. The war was over, but peace would now wear a completely new and unfamiliar face. Even the sharpest, most painful memories of the chaos were being soothed by the new harmony. Order was returning, one river at a time. The reunion of matter and its faithful shadow, a small but profound restoration of the rules. The sky was still the sky, but it was older now, and it remembered seeing other things. There were no victory parades, only the quiet, profound relief of those who had stared down madness and survived. The pillars that held up the old world became the silent monuments of the new. The remnants of the echo were now bound by new, more poetic laws. The earth was gently, but firmly, reclaiming its authority. The first dawn of a new era, witnessed by a humanity that was both humbled and awestruck. The shepherds of reality, returning to their flock. The textbook of human physics had not just been updated, it had been given a completely
Welcome
new
to
volume.
Universe 2.0.
Architecture now told a story, the buildings wearing their beautiful scars for all to see. The curtain was lifted, revealing a stage that had been permanently and beautifully rearranged. Life, as it always does, finds a way to grow, even through the cracks of a broken reality. The uninvited guest had become a permanent and strangely beautiful neighbor. For the first time, there were no borders, no nations, only a single, unified planet bound by a shared memory. The first breath of air in a world reborn. The old rhythm of the planet returned, but now with a few new, glittering notes in its song. A new perspective for the blue planet, now adorned with its own man-made celestial wonder. The sound of silence after the storm, the most beautiful sound in the universe. A common enemy had forged a single family, born from the ashes of a shared terror. The quiet flight of heroes from a war that could never be truly explained. And then, the next day began. From the ashes of the old logic, a new civilization learned how to dance with the irrational. The concept of the road was no longer bound to the ground. We learned to live with our scars, and in time, we even learned to find the beauty in them. The knowledge of humanity had doubled, and our humility had grown 1,000-fold. Technology, born from catastrophe, had become a simple tool for everyday life. The pillars that once saved the world became the quiet centerpieces of its parks. Even agriculture had learned to look to the new sky for its sustenance. The conflict was preserved not as a war, but as a dialogue between two impossibilities. Our horizon was no longer a line in the distance. It was now also directly above our heads. New rituals were born to celebrate a sky that held more than just stars. Art became the tool that transformed trauma into contemplation. We did not just adapt to the new physics. We turned it into a sport. The swords of yesterday became the playgrounds of today. History was no longer taught just from books, but was written permanently in the sky for all to see. The change was not just celestial, it reached into the deepest, darkest corners of our own world. The loneliest places on Earth had suddenly become the most beautiful. A new generation would grow up with a sky that was twice as large. The scar of yesterday became the clean energy of tomorrow. A shared experience had finally erased the invisible lines we had drawn between ourselves. For those who lost the old world, it was a tragedy. For those born into the new, it was simply magic. They were the guardians of a world that no longer existed, and the architects of the one that did. We stared into the abyss, and the abyss did not just stare back. We stared into the abyss, and the abyss did not just stare back. Our reality was expanded, but are we truly ready for what lies on the other side?